You're listening to the Homeboys podcast, recorded in our Indiana office and with combined 40 years of experience. Here's your hosts, Clint and Scott.
Hey, real estate investors, you are with the Homeboys and the Homeboys podcast. My name is Clint Wetherill. We appreciate you joining us today. Real quick, hit subscribe, be with us for all of our future podcasts. We've got a very exciting topic today. We are going small. In real estate, everyone always thinks of the big, sexy real estate markets to get into, the large cities. We're here to tell you today that it doesn't have to be big, that it can be small, and that there's lots of opportunities outside of these major markets. I'm always here with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Scott Adams. How are you, buddy?
Couldn't be better. We got a full day together yesterday.
It's a good day. It's a good day. We actually went out to one of these smaller markets and got to hang out a little bit, a couple hours there, a couple hours back.
Met with their Economic Development Council and their mayor and learned a lot about the growth a lot of these little towns are having. It's very interesting stuff.
We should have wore identical shirts yesterday. Probably been a little bit more impressive.
I noticed that in the lounge or the conference room where we met, the chairs leaned way back, and I had to stop myself from putting my feet up on the darn conference table. Was your chair like that? I forgot to ask you.
Yeah. And I don't know, it was a pretty laid back, atmosphere anyway.
Right.
But it's neat to get outside of Indianapolis and, some of these areas. It's something that we've been doing, for quite a while. And it's also pretty awesome to check out the food in other places too. As we talk about on here all the time, we're getting down on the food. But
we only had 15 minutes to eat yesterday. We had garbage, literal garbage.
We had a McDonald's and it was like 50 degrees inside there.
That's right.
Oh my gosh!
I had to go out to the car and get my jacket.
So cold, crazy.
Yeah. That's very interesting little markets though. You and I built a 30,000 square foot building in a town of 5,000. Mm-hmm. How long ago has that been? Is that 2 years now?
About 2 years. We leased it up through the height of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the smaller market for us, and just kind of we can dive in and talk about some of our experience. Happened in Southern Indiana, and just not really, I shouldn't say by accident, but more because of familiarity. Because I grew up down there, and started looking around at some houses, while I was at home visiting family. I had I was at home a lot there for a while because my mom got sick and, was helping attend to some of her care. And, found out that the houses were actually surprisingly worth as much money as here in Indianapolis.
Right.
And, Evansville's a little unique because it's got a strong jobs market, but the rents were actually, consistent, if not even higher in some certain areas.
Sure. And you and I, we obviously have more business than we can handle as far as leasing houses ourselves. We've got teams of people who do that. But when we would be in Evansville, you and I would go out to the actual properties, which is a treat for us. And we actually handled leasing the first two that we did in Evansville.
By accident?
Yeah, because we were down there. Mm-hmm. And literally people were coming up to us in the car when we parked out front and bringing us cash saying, no, let me have it. And, no, let me have it. Yeah. They're fighting over it down there.
Those were some awesome houses too.
Yeah. Neat.
And the only reason I say that they were awesome houses, I know we've done some other awesome houses down there, a lot of really nice homes, but because it was a new market for us, we actually met with a lot of the contractors and we kind of, helped facilitate that. Whereas up here, we don't get to see the houses nearly as much. Right. But man, got to get the hell out of the office more, man. I know. That's the fun stuff.
I miss it.
I haven't been in any of those houses since we've been in those too, I don't think.
No. No, we can't go to them all. We do such high volume. We're basically a production builder. We're every bit a production builder, but it really turned us on to how powerful these smaller markets are and how overlooked they are by most investors and just how strong their jobs are. It's just fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. I would have never had interest in these markets, 10 years ago had we not kind of stumbled on it because of where you're from and us kind of just tinkering around with a couple of houses down there.
Right.
So it opened up our eyes to something that we not only found that we think is amazing and we share with our clients, but it's also trending that way. Mm-hmm. It's trending stronger and stronger that way. And I'm not sure if COVID had something to do with people wanting more space and wanting to get out of the cities more, or the actual reason for the population growth in these small markets. But yesterday, in this small little Indiana town, they have 15,000 people per day coming in from Ohio to work at the jobs that are in this area. Mm-hmm. 15,000 people from out of state a day coming in for that.
They have several really, really, really large manufacturing facilities,
right?
Around it. So
it's just fascinating. People are flocking to these towns that we.
It is.
That the honest truth is we got lucky. We happened to find.
And it's kind of similar, like for Evansville. There's it's a river town. Transportation. There's some large auto manufacturing down there, and. I'm almost kind of scared to talk about Evansville because I want to tell all of our competitors around Indianapolis to stay the hell out of Evansville. It's ours.
Right. We are heavy in Evansville, and there's a lot of real simple reasons why. They're right on the Ohio River, and which is shocking to me. You knew this growing up down there on the Ohio River, but it's a transportation hub like you wouldn't believe. I had no idea how much industry depends on that as a transportation route. You've got all this Chicago goods coming down the river. I had no idea things were transported by river in America still.
Oh, we just took it for granted because, my grandmother lived on the Ohio River on a bluff that overlooked the Ohio River, and you just saw a barge coming by with, rock or coal or whatever it was.
And one of the richest people in your hometown was a barge builder, right?
Mm-hmm, correct. Yeah.
So it's just very interesting with those things. And then you've got other factors like, we are one of the most business-friendly states in the United States. And so when you're on the border of Kentucky or Indiana down there, the little jobs from across the way, Owensboro and all these Kentucky towns, they put their headquarters over in Evansville. There's just a ton of factors for that. But the other part that's really interesting and attractive for these small towns for us and for our investors is the fact that they're being overlooked by institutional money. And it's not just that they're unaware of it. It's being overlooked because it's hard for a large production builder or a large apartment builder to set up shop in a small town like that because they can build 2 apartment complexes and then they'd have to move all of their stuff back. It just, their machine isn't built to go out into these small towns. And so it's a kind of a unique time for the small time investors like us and our clients, the individual investors, to be able to hit a market that we're not competing with the big boys.
Right. It's easy for us, and let's try to compartmentalize this to, like our clients and listeners that are outside of the area. We know Evansville. Right. We know a lot of the markets that are around Indianapolis that we're in. The one that's several hours north of us that we were at yesterday. But we have a large concentration of clients, say in the Bay Area, out in San Francisco area. If you sent me a pro forma, if I'm someone that lives in the Bay Area, and you gave me a pro forma of something in Indianapolis versus something in Evansville, Indiana, I would think that the California person, like, well, I know Indianapolis. I mean, what the hell's Evansville, and why would I ever go to Evansville? And I'm not saying that that's not really the feedback we've gotten from our customers. True. We it's been very welcoming. But what would you say to those out of area people that have to process the fact that we're trying to sell them a product in a town that is 75% smaller or 80% smaller, right, that they've never heard of before.
Yeah, I mean, you basically you just have to look at the strengths and the weaknesses, no matter where anything is, and the strengths of these small markets are, they have large population growth without enough homes being built, which happens to be
that's an excellent point.
Happens to be true everywhere right now. Fannie thinks we're 7 million houses short of population. But particularly in these small towns were overlooked leading up to 2008, and then 2008 happened and no building happened. And so they've just been overlooked for like 2 decades without growth, yet they have some of the largest population growths, yet they don't have housing growth. I mean, it's pretty simple on paper why they're so strong. And then you've got some of the cultural factors with these littler towns that are amazing. Now, I happen to love them, and so do you. We go to these towns, and I just think it's so neat, the old names.
I'm a redneck from a tiny town with a stoplight and a Wendy's.
Right.
So it's, we go to some of these smaller markets. And I said it yesterday. We were driving back kind of through the country, and I noticed all the ponds that people had. And I'm like, man, this is heaven to me. This is what I'm about,
Right. So my point is that in these smaller towns, people stay. They stay a lot longer, not only in the towns, but in the houses that they move into. There's not a lot of shifting. So it's interesting that you mentioned your grandmother's house as an example. So that's still in your family. So your brother now lives in it and has taken over that house and brought it to the next level. And he's done a lot to it, and it's really neat. But at the end of the day, people stay in these towns in the houses that they have. So we have longer tenant stays. So you've got longer tenant stays. You've got rents that are just as strong as any big market that we have.
Yeah.
And you've got a population growth without housing growing alongside of it. And you've got 2 decades worth of pent up demand, and builders still aren't going there. So it's not even being solved.
Right.
So where's the sunset on this? We don't see one.
And I think our experience, like when we talk about smaller markets, I think it's important to talk about, and tell me if you disagree, 2 different levels of smaller markets. We're talking like the Evansville type market in southern Indiana. I mean, it's still the 3rd biggest city, in the state of Indiana. So when we're talking about, to me, that's still a pretty big market. And where I grew up in southern Indiana, that was the big city. I mean, that's where you went, to do really anything, restaurants, shopping, you name it, But then, we had a passion project in Rockport, Indiana, where I'm from, that closed out, a year or so ago. That's a completely different, smaller market.
How many people are in Rockport?
3,500-ish,
very small market.
There's some areas around there that you can include into it, but
Sure.
let's just call it 35, whatever. But, we got into that project because, I grew up there. My dad had just passed away, and I talked to him about building some apartments in the hometown, and then we got involved with it. And anyhow, we built this building. But in order to build this building, which has 3,900 square feet of commercial space and 12 apartments above it,
right?
3-story. Anyway, while we're running our numbers, and I can remember us, sitting in my office with a scratch piece of paper going through it. I mean, the only feasible way that we could do it was to charge the most expensive rents that the town has ever seen by 30%.
Maybe the whole county.
Correct. And we're like, we're talking about $1 a square foot a month. We're in Fishers here. It's $1.50 a square foot a month. I still think $1 is reasonable for something new. So then, on the City of Rockport Facebook page and all this, you get people like posting like, these guys are freaking stupid, man.
Yeah, they're crazy.
They're charging, $1,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
But anyhow, I mean, it got in my head a little bit. Like, I'd come in and be like, man, look at what these guys are posting. But anyhow,
I had to be your counselor a few times.
It drove me nuts. It was keeping me up at night, because I was serious about this project. I wanted the main street in Rockport, Indiana, to have something nice, and was serious about it.
Well, people will find a way to crap on anything good.
Oh, they will, man. Nobody wants anybody doing anything good, But anyhow, we were leased out immediately. So I guess that brings me, to the 2 different markets that I'm talking about, Evansville and then the really small town. Evansville, the prices are kind of set by everything around it. Those prices are very market driven. But in some of these smaller markets, if you're doing something kind of cutting edge, you're almost setting the market. You're almost changing the market in the smaller town, because like Rob, a local realtor down there that I've looked up to my whole life. He's used to be, I think Rob's 5 years older than me and used to live next door. And I thought he was the coolest dude in the history of the world. But he's the biggest real estate agent down there.
Right. I see his signs everywhere.
Right. And Rob was like, man, thanks for building them because all my rents just went up in my houses.
Sure.
So there's opportunity in the kind of the secondary size markets like in Evansville, Indiana, but then there's a kind of a different opportunity in the really small markets.
Yeah, the big fancy word, tertiary markets.
Correct.
And so Rockport is a very small example of those. We won't probably have a lot of offerings for clients in a market that small. The more of the markets that we're very focused on that we see the future in, we really do see the brightest future for individual investors in these tertiary markets that have populations between say 10 and 35, 40,000. And these are markets that you don't change the entire market just by putting one building up. There's enough of a market that it's established on its own. But these are the overlooked markets. So it's almost suburbs to an Evansville would be one way to describe them. Suburbs to a Fort Wayne. A lot of these places that we look at, even one that we're very excited to be a part of is up in Elwood, Indiana, and it's a brand new apartment project that we're involved in, and we're going to be managing. And we bought the old jewelry store in downtown Elwood, Indiana. We're going to put a cool little office in there. But those towns, they could all be considered suburbs of secondary markets, if that makes sense.
That town's unique though because. And I think it's important when you're investing. I mean, you look at the local economy and what's going on. Red Gold tomatoes, and I think everybody knows Red Gold tomatoes.
Right.
But they don't know that the corporate office for Red Gold tomatoes is in Elwood, Indiana.
Yeah.
Heck, I didn't know it.
I knew it was here
until we got involved. Down the road. And this is a project that we could have been partners on, but we kind of took a step back. We're still managing it.
We're the help. We're the hired help.
Hey, I'm stoked to be the hired help. I think it's great. And
honored.
We got the opportunity to meet some of the city officials, and we said we were going to drop a trailer and keep it as a sales office up there for the. It's like, well, we've got some opportunity here for you, and took us out. And the next thing we know, like, oh, well, we own a building in downtown Elwood now.
Right. Yeah, that is how it works, I guess.
You asked me 5 months ago.
Right.
I was like, what? But I'm elated about it. But it just goes to show you that there are, opportunities in these smaller markets, and in a lot of ways, it's I don't know. I'm getting a lot of satisfaction out of it too. Like it's
what I get up for right now. At this point in my career, the most exciting thing, and this is just selfish stuff. This is for us as much as anything, but I like going to these towns. I like making a difference. I like being wanted. In Indiana, or any market you're in, normally there's always a reason why landlords suck. In these towns, they're literally begging for us to build rental housing for their workforce. They've got all these different manufacturing plants and all these different jobs, and they have nowhere for the employees to stay. And so these mayors and these economic councils all day long are literally hearing from businesses and business owners, calling them up and saying, I'm trying to hire people and they have nowhere to live. You got to do something, Mayor, about this.
Right.
So for once in my life, when I walk into a room, as a real estate investor, you walk into a lot of rooms and people are like, oh, real estate investor. You're wanted. They say, you are my solution.
Right.
These people are looking to our clients to help solve their needs. And it's really rewarding to be a part of that. Plus, like you said, you and I both just love these little towns in Indiana. They're cool. They're fun.
It's been awesome, man.
They're really neat.
Yeah.
And it's neat to be able to bring our clients to these markets too. We're very lucky. Our clients are they believe in us. We've proven them over time that obviously we know what we're doing, and there's a lot of trust that goes on there. So I'm sure it was hard for the first clients that we had to dive into some of these markets that we said, this is the future. This is where we need to position you and ourselves. and they've come along and they've been able to reap those rewards. And what we're saying now is we're even more focused on it because we believe it's definitely the future.
Right. A lot of Busch Light being drank in those towns too.
There is.
Pretty amazing.
It's good old Indiana stuff. Like you said, we drove by and everybody's got a pond out on their property, and I said, man, I wish I had a pond. And then I thought, oh wait, I do have a pond.
Well, so much of my heart is small town Indiana. Anyway, I'm just coming off of a bachelor party with 25-ish guys from my hometown of Rockport, Indiana, where we, and it's such a special little fraternity that that these guys have, like, where they congregate together, they live life together. Everyone loves one another. It's
so a group of small town
really
guys
else, just drinking Busch Light,
right.
Hanging out, grilling meat. It was
right.
just like, man, this is amazing.
But where did you guys go? Instead of going to Indianapolis or Evansville, you guys went to another cool small town, which is where Larry Bird is from.
Yeah, went to French Lick,
played golf, stayed at the casino. Yeah. So
Hick from French Lick.
Yeah, Hick from French Lick.
Larry Bird.
But my point is that these little towns have a lot of things to offer. It's not just people stuck in there hoping to someday go to the big city. I mean, these towns are ripe because you've got people wanting to move to them. There's
right.
a lot of neat factors to them that I think people who have lived in their cities their whole life, someone like me, I grew up in a suburb of Indianapolis, and I thought anything outside of 465, which is the highway around Indianapolis, was just country.
Yeah, if you would have came to our town, you would have got your ass kicked.
Oh, I'm sure. I would have had my Heineken. I would have said, you
totally
don't have Busch Light. You don't have Heineken?
Yeah. Everyone loves Scott Adams. You'd have fit right in.
I love that town.
You would have fit right in.
I do love your town.
And everyone that you've met down there, like that, I'll run into people like, oh man, Scott Adams.
I love it.
Awesome.
There.
But
it's a neat place.
Yeah.
But small town Indiana is really neat. And again, you can go too small.
I can't believe you're going there, because I was sitting here waiting to get into that, because we've talked about the positive, parts of investing in a small town and all of that, but there is such thing as too small. I'm talking about my hometown of Rockport. You go outside of Rockport into some of that, and I'm not going to name the town because I don't want to insult anybody, but you get outside of it and in some of these really, really, really tiny towns, and you got to be cautious, because there are places that are run down, like in the heart of coal country, in Kentucky,
sure.
that all those jobs have left and there are no jobs, that you got to really be cautious, because
or a town built on one single company or one single thing, like coal, like you said, a town that's built on one thing. If there's a hiccup in that, man, it can crush a town. So you have to have a balance of some diversity
Correct.
in these small towns, which is why we're focused on kind of these markets that are more suburbs of other places, or have giant, or not giant, but diverse jobs. Like you talked about the Red Gold in Elwood. I mean, that's just one of their many industries. This
right.
thing. They're not, just because Red Gold is there, they're not employing 50% of the town. They have all kinds of jobs up there in manufacturing. And now people are moving to Elwood who work in Indianapolis, which blew my mind. The mayor was telling us a large portion of the growth has been Indianapolis-based job people.
God bless them. That wouldn't be for me.
Right. Well, I think with COVID too, you have to think people are working remotely more too, so they can live outside of the major cities.
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, and that's the way it's trending. Why not live 40 minutes outside of a major market? If you're working from home, you come into the office every day. I come into the office every day, and I like the fact that I've got a 5-minute drive here, and you've got 5
right
as well, right? 6.
It's about 10.
Is it about 10? Yeah. Ooh,
I know. Yeah. It takes me 10 minutes to get to work.
Rough, isn't it?
And once in a while, I have to stop at a stoplight.
I have one between my house and here.
Yeah.
One stoplight.
Yeah, I'm pissed. If I see that stale green and I'm coming up on it, I'm like, you better not turn.
But, you got to look at the demographic, and it's not, there's a lot of population outside of, overweight, middle-aged, men, like us.
Right.
You're right. I mean, we got a big client recently, Dan and Kelly. We went out to breakfast with Dan and Kelly, and it doesn't matter where they live. Started in California, and like, I guess we're just going to move to Florida, because I can live anywhere and do what I do. And, they're very well-educated, smart people. And,
sure,
it's the times are changing.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. It seems weird, I think, to folks like, not weird, but it just seems different for folks like you and me because we're so tied in with our family, and our family is so centrally located. I mean, I tell this story all the time now, but my family all has walkie-talkies. They have walkie-talkies to talk to each other in where we live, our town, because we all live that close.
I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, I think there's seven people with walkie-talkies. So, I mean, the idea of me moving to just Florida because I felt like it, or California, and being free is foreign beyond what I can understand. But at the same time, that's the way of the world now. Well, one of these groups that we go and speak with, and we love them. They've got a great relationship with them, and we go out to San Francisco and talk with them. 2 or 3 of their employees don't have houses, meaning they don't own, they don't rent, they simply Airbnb. Mm-hmm. They literally don't have a house. They just live. They just travel and work from where they travel. It's
Makes
crazy.
No sense to me.
No. But, it goes back to that point that, tying yourself to these bigger cities isn't necessary anymore for the workforce. It's becoming less and less necessary for the workforce. Yeah, I think Google and Facebook extended their work from home orders a little further or something. I don't know.
I got a good friend of mine that's a VP at Roche Diagnostics, one of the biggest companies, here locally. He hasn't been in 18 months. It's or not 18.
Yeah, so it's
call it 13, 14 months.
The other part that's interesting is that people are choosing these small towns. I'm fascinated by it. Every time we meet with all these economic councils or the city council, they all have that same problem. They're like, everyone's moving here. They're scared. You can see the fear in their eyes. They're like, we need housing. Everyone's moving here. It's interesting to me that that's kind of where the population is shifting.
It's not like that in every town,
I'm sorry.
But a couple that we've been in, they can't keep up.
Right.
They literally can't keep up. Real estate's hot in most places, but you really got to pay attention to the economy and the industry that's going on around it. I mean, it really drives a lot. Sure.
Yeah, I guess we should make sure that we point out just how specific and picky we are on which of these small towns there are. We're not just like, oh, it's a town of 10,000, let's go buy houses there. I'll give
you a great for example. There's not much opportunity there, but the Honda plant went in Greensburg, Indiana.
Yeah.
So that was 10, 11, 12 years ago. But everything around it, Shelbyville, Greenfield, of course, Greensburg, everything around that area. I mean, we're talking, thousands of jobs that went into this Honda plant. If you can identify that, a little too late to the party on that one because,
right.
Everything has kind of been bought up. I own a few in Shelbyville, myself, kind of based off of that reason. It's in one of my girls' LLCs. But
For this market, the other reason that we feel that it's the future, we're ahead of institutional money in these areas, and we've always. The truth is, small companies like ours, people like Clint and I, we're always just on the edge, right ahead of those hedge funds, knowing that they're going to come steal the cake at some point. Every single thing we do, we know they're going to be right behind us. Doing it. And so we're ahead of them at this point in these tertiary markets just because it's hard for them to set up their giant infrastructures and move it and, outside of the current box that it's in. But they'll be coming at some point for these. The opportunity it's too strong. There's just too much demand for people to buy rentals in these towns that need rental homes and build rental properties. So we are very heavily looking at it for our future. We're heavily advising our clients to always consider kind of these smaller market properties that we have. We still offer Indianapolis properties for our clients and Evansville properties and more properties in more populated areas. But we are going to be more and more focused on where we think the best opportunity for our clients lies, which is in these tertiary markets, very select very, very select markets.
Can you spell tertiary?
No.
I can't.
No.
I thought it was like tertiary was like a period like right before the Jurassic, period. It was like the tertiary period and the Jurassic period.
Well, it would be Latin. So it's Latin for tertiary. I don't know. I'm just going to show how dumb I am here. So I better shut up and just nod. I believe it's Latin.
I was just happy that you got tertiary out there.
Yeah, I believe it means third. I'm like a monkey. I just repeat what someone smarter than me says. We'll be in these meetings with literally the town attorneys and these really intelligent, smart people, like actuary level smart, and they said the word, so now I'm using it.
Well, I always talk about when we go out to some of these conferences, the information dump that is going on. There'll be someone up on stage talking about GDP this and inflationary rate this.
Your eyes just gloss over.
Nah.
I'll look over at you and I'll just see you kind of, and I'm like, oh God, we lost him. We lost him. Come back.
He's gone. He's out. Well, that is our show for today. I think it's just something that we have to open our minds and tell ourselves it's not just about the 25 biggest real estate markets in the country. There's lots of opportunity up there. We've seen huge run-ups in real estate, which has kind of pushed us out, a little bit, but we are so pleasantly surprised by being pushed out and seeing the opportunity that's out there. And like I said, we're having fun with it. So if you would like to talk to us more about that, he's your guy because he's a lot smarter than me. I'm always willing to take your call, text or email, but always keep your eyes open and look for those secondary or tertiary,
there it is,
markets. But that's our show for today. Again, hit subscribe, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We love providing this content for you, and we can't wait to talk to you next time. Till then, happy investing.